Tonight, the NHS in crisis. How the huge pressure in Scotland's hospitals is hitting patient care.
One of the biggest regrets I'll have in my life was allowing my mum to go to the hospital to be treated like that, after assurances that she would be taken care of.
We're also hearing from people with long COVID who say they're not getting the help they need. In other news, a drunken racist assault carried out by a boy band star on a flight from Glasgow to London. Lee Ryan also tried to kiss cabin crew.
To sport, and we hear from all four captains ahead of the League Cup semi-finals.
I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. Once again tonight, the pressures on Scotland's hospitals are having a major impact on patient care. Several health boards, including the biggest, have postponed non-urgent operations so they can prioritise emergencies and cancer cases.
The First Minister has been forced to deny claims of nurses working 24-hour shifts, and she has faced further calls to sack her Health Secretary. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
Although we knew she was terminally ill, we didn't think, on entering the hospital, it never crossed my mind that she would not come back out it.
When Stuart's mum, Noreen, was rushed to Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth University Hospital just before New Year with a chest infection, he says they were assured by medics there would be a bed available for her. But when they arrived, that wasn't the case.
Chaos, bedlam, and no way at all do I blame the nursing staff. I blame the system. I think the system's broken. So we tried to plead with the medical staff if one of us could at least be with her so we could help her. We were subsequently refused.
When Noreen, who had terminal lung cancer, became unresponsive, she was taken to a side room where her family were allowed to be by her bedside. She passed away just a few hours later.
One of the biggest regrets I'll have in my life was allowing my mum to go to the hospital to be treated like that. The only reason why I'm doing this is because my mum deserved better.
Last night, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde announced it's pausing non-urgent operations in order to prioritise urgent treatment and cancer care. The move follows similar action from 3 other health boards, including NHS Fife, which runs Victoria Hospital here in Kirkcaldy. They haven't entirely stopped their elective procedures programme, but they have considerably reduced it amid their busiest winter on record. GPs say the impact of such decisions trickles down to primary care as well.
Patients who are waiting for elective surgery, perhaps it's a joint replacement, can be sitting in pain at home and they need help and support from their primary care team while they're waiting for those delayed surgeries. For the month of December, our on-the-day demand was up by 82% every day in December, so it was a very exhausting month.
A Twitter account claiming to be run by NHS workers at the QEUH said nurses could be forced to pull 24-hour shifts due to a lack of staff. But at First Minister's questions today, Nicola Sturgeon denied this.
That, as I am assured by NHS Greater and Glasgow and Clyde, and as the board has said publicly, is not true.
This dire situation confirms yet again this Health Secretary and this government is not on top of this crisis.
Our NHS is broken and the system is failing. Staff are being asked to do the impossible and patients are being asked to accept the unacceptable. Lives are being lost.
As health boards remind the public not to attend A&E unless their condition is urgent or life-threatening, the First Minister insists the majority of patients do get excellent care. Laura Alderman, STV News, Kirkcaldy.
An inquiry into what's being done to help those with long COVID in Scotland is beginning at the Scottish Parliament. Almost 190,000 people here say they're living with the condition.
The symptoms include shortness of breath, fatigue and what's described as brain fog. The COVID-19 Recovery Committee wants to hear about how it's affecting people's lives. As Selena Jackson reports.
It was like everything just became background noise. Everybody that was chatting, I couldn't separate out sounds from machines or talking or anything. and I kind of just fell to the ground in my work crying, and I was like, I can't do this.
Brenda Eadie started working as an NHS nurse in 1994 but has had to give up her career because of the effects of long COVID. She caught the virus in March 2020 and says that the lingering brain fog, pain and fatigue have turned her life upside down.
One of the nights I set my whole house on fire, the whole cooker and everything was on fire. I had actually went to my bed, getting so distracted that I had actually went to my bed.
Now Brenda lives with her mum who has terminal cancer and says they rely on each other for help with everyday tasks. She's just one of almost 190,000 people who say they're still struggling with the effects of the illness. Now that's being looked into at the Scottish Parliament to find out what's being done and what more can be done to support them.
There's funding gone to health boards, but we're looking at what the health boards are all doing, looking at what people with long COVID are experiencing, how they think things could be done differently.
Holyrood's COVID-19 Recovery Committee has launched the Long COVID Inquiry and today heard stories like these.
You feel isolated for the GPs because they try their best, but they've not been given any resources. Isolated for your family because it makes you angry that you're like this. Nobody wants to be with somebody that's crab and angry.
Those accounts will be used to make recommendations to the Scottish Government. But Brenda thinks if there's to be any real progress, there has to be a joined-up approach to tackling the symptoms of long COVID.
Bouncing from department to department to department at the moment with all these different ailments, my hands, my back, my brain, my gut. They're all being treated in separate appointments at separate times and nothing's getting brought together. And it's like, well, we can only discuss this at the moment, one thing at a time. Like, well, this is all part of one thing.
The committee's taking views from individuals, groups and employers for the next month. Selina Jackson, STV News.
A rape survivor says sexual assault victims at universities in Scotland receive less support from the institution than perpetrators do. Ellie Wilson was raped by a fellow student at Glasgow University in 2017.
Her rapist was then admitted to Edinburgh University, despite the institution knowing he was being investigated by the police. Ellie is now calling for action to ensure students feel safer. Hannah Brown reports.
Do you not get how awful it makes me feel when you say I haven't raped you, when you have, and when you say that I've made up...
We've already established that I have.
This is the chilling moment Ellie Wilson recorded Daniel McFarlane admitting to raping her. Student Daniel was suspended from Glasgow University following the incident in 2017. But despite an ongoing police investigation, he was able to apply and gain a place at the University of Edinburgh. A clean slate and a fresh start, while Ellie suffered.
At the time I really struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder and I'm still struggling with that. I dealt with suicidal thoughts. It was really difficult for me to live a normal life.
In June 2022, her attacker was convicted of multiple accounts of rape, but Ellie wanted to make sure no one else had to suffer as she did. She contacted universities and discovered it is common practice for alleged sexual abusers to transfer to different institutions across Scotland.
What's more, universities do not share information on the outcome of sex-related disciplinary hearings, allowing for offenders to start afresh at institutions who know nothing about their past actions.
The Vice President of Edinburgh University Student Association believes there is scope to explore safety measures such as creating online-only classes for those undergoing sexual assault investigations.
Obviously COVID's shown that there's more scope for that. In terms of specifics, I think it's something that really needs further investigation into what is the most appropriate way to handle this going forward, because clearly there's not been enough safeguarding in the past.
In a statement, the university said applicants are not required to disclose criminal convictions or ongoing investigations. They say student and staff safety remains a top priority and it acts swiftly when sexual misconduct occurs. Hannah Brown, STV News.
Rishi Sunak will arrive in Scotland tonight on his first trip north since becoming Prime Minister. He's on his way to Inverness ahead of an expected announcement tomorrow that the Forth Ports will become one of 2 green free ports in Scotland.
The Prime Minister will also meet the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, while he's here. For more, we can now join our political editor, Colin Mackay, who's already in Inverness for us tonight. And Colin, a significant trip then for the Prime Minister.
The main significance is because it is his first trip north as Prime Minister. Now, tonight he's going to meet search and rescue staff near here at Inverness Airport. He's then going to go on and meet community groups in Inverness itself. Before that meeting with the Prime Minister, the First Minister tonight, on top of the agenda for that is going to be NHS pay. The First Minister wants the Prime Minister to step in and try and get a deal done down south so that there's more money coming into the NHS in Scotland so that she can get a deal done in Scotland to try and stave off the prospect of the strikes of ambulance workers and nurses that we're already seeing down south. The Prime Minister is also going to be challenged on whether he's going to intervene on the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, which was passed by MSPs before Christmas. The First Minister doesn't want him to intervene on that one. And then the other thing, I think, this is the first time both leaders will have met since the Supreme Court ruled. Now, I don't think there's going to be any movement from the Prime Minister on the prospects for another independence referendum, because if you remember back to the leadership hustings in Perth, he described any prospect of that during the cost of living crisis as barmy.
Colin in Inverness, thank you. Lee Ryan from the boy band Blue has been found guilty of the racially aggravated assault of a female cabin crew member on a flight from Scotland to London. The 39-year-old singer says he got drunk at British Airways Executive Lounge at Glasgow Airport after staff there gave him a whole bottle of port.
On boarding the plane to London, Ryan was seen slurring his words and staggering around before telling a black flight attendant, "I want your chocolate children." He then asked her to kiss him. Ian Woods reports from Ealing Magistrates Court.
Lee Ryan admitted he got drunk while waiting for a delayed flight from Glasgow to London. He claims he can't remember much about it. He did plead guilty to assaulting a police officer after his arrest, but denied a racially aggravated assault on a black flight attendant. The court was told that Ryan tried to get himself upgraded to business class by saying that he was famous and was being harassed by other passengers, but the cabin crew didn't know who he was. He was told to return to his seat. Instead, he went to the back of the plane and asked a flight attendant for a drink and a kiss. Leah Gordon said he held her by the wrists and told her, "You are my chocolate cookie," and "I want your chocolate children." "I was intimidated. I felt a bit embarrassed, like I wasn't doing my duty properly. To get comments about my colour, whether intentional or not, it was just unacceptable and so derogatory. I just felt like it wasn't fair and I shouldn't have to put up with it. I don't go to work to be assaulted or harassed." A passenger intervened, and because of his disruptive behaviour and drunkenness, police officers were waiting to arrest Ryan when the plane landed. When questioned the following day, he apologised and said he'd like to send the flight attendant flowers or tickets for a future Blue concert. I'm telling you, objection overruled. The singer said he blamed BA staff for getting him drunk before the flight. Ryan said he went to the British Airways lounge and helped himself to free port and cheese. When the bottle was finished, he says that BA staff offered him some more. He said, "That will get me drunk." He claims their response was, "Isn't that the point?" In total, he claims he drank about 3/4 of a bottle of port and hadn't realised how strong it was. He denied being racist or aggressive. "My band member is black," he said. "I'm not racist. I've had black girlfriends, mixed-race girlfriends. It was banter, just drunk banter, I suppose. There was no malice or intention to upset anyone. I didn't mean to cause any distress to anyone or be racist." But magistrates found him guilty and watched body-worn camera of him trying to bite a police officer while in custody. Ryan will be sentenced next month after Blue have finished a tour. He ran off to avoid cameras as he left court and hid in a nearby school. Ian Woods, STV News, London.
A Glasgow charity helping hundreds of people across the city says it will be forced to close after the council pulled its funding. Food Train delivers groceries to people who aren't able... I beg your pardon, that's the wrong story. 6,500 new homes could be built across Glasgow in the next 5 years. The city's council has approved plans to invest £535 million to build the houses. The proposals focus on increasing the number of large, affordable homes and accessible accommodation. A popular walk in the banks of Loch Lomond is closing for 2 months. The Connick Hill path at Balmaha is being widened and there won't be any access until the end of March. Complaints on cross-border West Coast trains soared between July and September. Regulators found a rise in Avanti and TransPennine Express services when timetables were reduced as drivers took industrial action. Teachers in Glasgow will strike as planned on Monday after talks between the Scottish Government and the EIS ended with no agreement. Each day for 16 days, schools and 2 local authorities will close beginning next week. A Glasgow Charity helping hundreds of people across the city says it will be forced to close after the council pulled its funding. This story from Caroline Lewis.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's a weekly visit Walter always looks forward to. He has motor neurone disease. After his wife died, he struggled to cope, and unable to get to the shops, he quickly developed malnutrition.
I cannot get out there. I'm housebound. When I do have a wheelchair, but I've no coordination to propel it. So I'm snookered.
The charity food train stepped in,
Eggs in the fridge.
making weekly deliveries to make sure the cupboard was always full.
Right, that's us.
There's guarantee I always got food on the table, but it's a friendship they extend to you as well. I don't have family, so I love when they come in with the shopping.
The charity currently makes hundreds of these deliveries a week, but not for much longer, as on Tuesday they were told they would no longer receive funding from Glasgow City Council.
Food train is about keeping people at Walter well, and the other hundreds of people that we help in Glasgow. That's what it's about. But the impact of that is we're keeping them well so they don't go into hospital. They don't cost more money.
But councils across Scotland are being squeezed. Glasgow City Council is facing a deficit of £120 million. Meanwhile, there's been a dramatic rise in the amount of support charities are asking for, and the council says difficult decisions had to be made. In a statement, Councillor Christina Cannon said, "We know that organisations who have not been recommended for grant funding will be disappointed. Unfortunately, we have a limited pot of money and we need to use the resources of the council, especially during these challenging financial times, in the most supportive and effective way to meet the needs of Glaswegians and our communities." The charity is now appealing to the council to step in and save the service, or Walter and hundreds of others will have their last delivery in just a few weeks' time. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
Time now for sport.
Here's Raman.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Ahead of this weekend's League Cup semi-finals, Celtic captain Callum McGregor admits the squad is hungrier than ever to win silverware and retain their trophy. Meanwhile, Rangers skipper James Tavernier is hoping last season's Scottish Cup success can inspire his team past Aberdeen to the final. Ronnie Charters reports.
Just tilt it forward a wee bit, please.
4 captains, 2 semi-finals, but only one will lift this trophy aloft. Celtic, Rangers, Kilmarnock and Aberdeen all vying for a place in the first final of the season. Callum McGregor was the last skipper to get his hands on the League Cup and admits they're hungrier than ever to retain their crown.
When the cup competitions come around, then straight away, you've got that desire to win. I don't think that'll ever change in me personally. It doesn't matter how many trophies you win, you want the next one, and when the next one comes up, then straight away you're hungry for it.
For Kelly, only one captain has ever lifted the League Cup at the National Stadium before. Alan Power is hoping to make it too.
No one thinks we can do it, but we have a little belief in the change room that we might be able to cause an upset. I like being an underdog and things and people looking down and maybe thinking you're not good enough, but we've earned the right to be there in that semi-final as much as Celtic.
For Rangers captain James Tavernier, fresh from their Scottish Cup success last season, the only domestic winners' medal he's now missing is the League Cup.
Yeah, I mean everything. It's obviously a cup that most of us haven't got. Obviously gives everyone who was here last season a taste of winning a domestic cup, and you want to have more days of that. Share it with the fans, your family. It can be a special day.
Aberdeen will be looking to avenge their recent defeat to Michael Beale's side, and their captain revealed which Rangers striker he rates the best.
I would say I would put Colak's a better striker than Morelos, in my opinion.
Based on?
Just the whole all-round game. I've played against both of them, and I kind of give my opinion on that.
So come the end of this weekend, we will know the two teams that will contest this trophy. Can Celtic continue their quest to defend their crown, or will Kelly make it to their first final in over a decade? Can Rangers make their first final under new manager Michael Beale, or will Aberdeen and Jib Goodwin spoil the party? The stories may be different, but the ultimate aim is the same. Secure your place in the first domestic final of the season and go one step closer to becoming League Cup champions. Ronnie Charters, STV News at Hampden Park.
Lee Johnson insists Hibs should not let Kevin Nisbet's deal run down to avoid a repeat of Ryan Porteous' contract situation. Porteous can leave Easter Road for free when his deal expires in the summer and is free to talk to clubs from this month. Nisbet, who scored a hat-trick at the weekend, has 18 months to run on his deal, but Johnson wants this extended.
I think you'd love to keep Kevin, you know, there's no secret. He's top player, he's had his injury issues, but the club have always looked after him before. And, you know, everybody's got different ambitions, you know, and our ambition as a football club is to improve, keep your best players, you know, build around your best players.
St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson has paid tribute to the staff at the club, saying their hard work has helped cut costs after a difficult financial year. The Saints' latest results show a loss of £1.6 million, largely due to the impact of COVID, while a number of increased and exceptional costs also contributed to the loss.
I've got one physio who doesn't have a day off, and Jerry Doherty. I've got one strength and conditioning coach who works in the academy as well and works incredible hours. I've got an assistant manager who's doing the analysis and going above and beyond everything that is done at a football club to make sure we protect what we're doing. And so far we've done that, and we'll continue to do that, and it's a credit to the people we've got around us.
David Martindale says he could quickly appoint Christoph Berra as Livingston's new first-team coach because he was pushing former assistant Marvin Bartley to get a job in management. Bartley took charge at Queen of the South this week, and Martindale has brought former Hearts captain Berra into his coaching team, with Neil Hastings promoted to number 2.
I've been trying to push Marvin to get a job elsewhere, so it was always going to be, at some point I was going to be looking for someone to come in. So I had a wee chat with Christoph. He's happy to come in. We'll see how we go on to the end of the year, but he brings a wealth of experience to the football club. He's played top flight football and he was a fantastic defender in his day.
And that, folks, is all your sport for me tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now Sean has the rain forecast.
Say hello to a period of calm. TUI sponsors STV weather.
Well, our first cold spell of the new year on the way. The good news is it should become drier and brighter for us, so there is a bonus to it becoming colder as we finally lose the worst of the rain. What a horrible day once again. And also gusty winds out there. Over the next couple of hours, still the risk around the likes of Kintyre, Machrihanish, Campbelltown, southern parts of Arran, around Ayr and Girvan, Stranraer, of gusts of wind up to around 60 miles per hour at times. And it's just over the next couple of hours and possibly as much as 40 to 50 further inland across likes of Ayrshire, Renfrewshire and Lanarkshire. So blustery over the next few hours, but the winds will be easing down through the night. The winds start to swing round to more of a northerly later on, so that means the rain turns a lot more showery and most of the showers restricted to areas exposed to that northerly in western parts. So tomorrow morning, further east, Stirlingshire, Glasgow, Lanarkshire, around Falkirk, a lot of dry, bright weather to start the day. Another weather front coming back in from the west through the afternoon. So we're going to see another spell of rain. It should be quite showery and it'll be nothing compared to the rain we had earlier on today. Loch Winnoch this morning getting 10 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Some very heavy rainfall earlier this morning across Renfrewshire. Temperatures about 6 or 7 degrees. Lots of showers around on Saturday, possibly heavy and thundery. Once again, turning a bit windier in the southwest. Colder air started to come in Sunday and Monday, and that means the showers we've still got will be turning increasingly wintry.
TUI sponsors STV weather.
And finally, The Apprentice returned to TV screens last week, and for the first time in 8 years, there's a Scot among the budding business hopefuls trying to impress Lord Sugar.
Yes, Rhys Donnelly runs the Theatre School of Scotland and is hoping to use his Scottish charm to win investment to expand his all-singing, all-dancing empire. Laura Boyd went to meet him to find out more.
Who leads Lean On Me? Does Charlotte play that piano?
One dedicated theatre school director, determined to prove he has the drive and skills worthy of becoming Lord Sugar's next business partner.
I'm going to be turning over £1 million before I'm 30.
Now 26-year-old Rhys Donnelly is swapping the boardroom for the boydroom.
Laura, we'll see you now.
Tell me about how The Apprentice came about. What was that whole experience like?
I would almost say it's like every job you've ever had put into one, because every skill that you've ever had in your back pocket, you are raiding your pockets to bring to the TV screens. It was fun, it was mental, but what a season we are all in for. My best advice to Lord Sugar is come and join the party before it's too late.
Lord Sugar was fantastic to work with. I think it's safe to say we can look forward to a bit of a debate that goes on sometime soon.
And the idea is to expand Theatre School of Scotland.
I started on a very small scale. You know, I used to hire out my local primary school and run classes. Now we work with, 800 children across Scotland every week. It's just the best job in the world.
Rhys's dedication has seen Theatre School of Scotland performances go viral, with pupils even invited to take part in last year's Tartan Day parade in New York.
For many, many years, there's a mentality or a stigma that, you know, in order to make it, or in order to make a business work, it needs to run out of a London office, and that just isn't the case anymore. I just want Lord Sugar to come and see what's happening up here, and maybe give us his money as well, would be quite nice, eh?
Rhys's bid to become the next apprentice continues on screen tonight, but do his pupils think he will be hired or fired?
Hired.
Rhys will be hired.
I think he'll put Lord Sugar in his place.
Yeah, I thought Lord Sugar knows what he's in for.
Why do you think he should win The Apprentice?
Because he's the best.
Let's hope Lord Sugar's watching. Laura Boyd, STV News, Glasgow.
Oh, good luck to Rhys. Well, Scotland Tonight here on STV at 8:30. We'll have a special report about unpaid carers and the mounting pressures they face looking after their disabled friends and relatives.
From all of us here, though, thank you for watching. Have a good night.